patients are interested in whitening, like our price point, if I'm going to work it into the schedule when I'm there, is maybe high enough that they don't really want to do it, but I have to do that to offset my
Oh,
chair
for
time.
sure. Mm-hmm.
Right now, while I'm out, it's kind of the perfect time. We do our schedule, like everybody else, at least 6 months in advance, sometimes a year in
Yeah.
advance. So I stay on with the workshop schedule, and some of the work shows are the same for me every year, and the girls know when. So we mark off those days, and we pre-fill those for like whitening discount days. So the girls are just running whitenings through today and tomorrow while I'm gone. And that gives my patients a great opportunity where if they're asking, for the last month leading up to this, if they're asking me about whitening, me and my entire team are always like, well, whitenings here are normally X amount, but if you want to go ahead and pre-book for these dates, you're going to save. We do it for $100 off, and
Amazing.
then we a $50 voucher that they use within the next year for like another whitening. So
Before diving into this week's show, let's take a moment to thank our sponsor. Friend, you've heard it before and you're going to hear it again. If you haven't tried Fern Whitening Supplies yet, what are you waiting for? From great chairside results to a full line of at-home retail to continue to grow your profits passively. Fern is your one-stop shop for all things chairside and take-home whitening. Let us help grow your business. Now, let's get on with the show. Happy Whitening Wednesday. This is episode 27, and today on the show we have Dr. Shana Hughes, who is a dentist in Kentucky with an amazing clinical practice called the Tooth Booth. And before we even started recording, we were kind of laughing about that when she opened in 2012. She had no idea what was going to happen or where the tooth booth was going to end up. So this is going to be so great and such an interesting and unique insight on dentistry, as Dr. Hughes has actually really incorporated the aesthetic medical world as well into her practice, which is slowly becoming more and more popular, but it seems like we definitely have a pioneer on our hands here, which is going to be so great to chat about. So tell us, so in 2012, when you started the tooth booth, what was on your mind? Was it just strictly dentistry at that time?
I mean, yeah, it was strictly dentistry. I really didn't know that this world was open to us, honestly. So I thought that I was, being a pioneer just by naming it something fun. And I've considered a lot since then rebranding, but my brand is so strong now that
Oh, for sure. You
it is
can't.
what. Yeah, I can't. So I'm locked into the tooth and bow now, but that's fine. So yeah, I graduated in 2011. Had no idea dentists could participate in facial aesthetics. Didn't know a lot about facial aesthetics. Had never gotten like Botox myself or anything. I mean, I was 24. Um, so then I opened my office in 2012, at the beginning of 2012, and I took my first injectables course in 2012. So I incorporated it really early on.
Good.
Um, I feel like it really took off probably around 2015, though. I mean, it takes a hot minute to,
For sure.
and it was so new then for like the dental world.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's becoming a lot more accepted with dentists now. I had no issue when I introduced it to my practice because I'm in a small town. So if they were going to get injectables, they were going to get it from me.
They were coming to you.
Yeah, but now we've incorporated it. I've incorporated it so well, and I've done it for so long that now most of my facial injectable patients are not from my town or surrounding towns. So that's great.
That's incredible. And what did you find? Were you finding that when you decided to take that first aesthetics course, was it because you were looking at still a little bit more dentistry related, like TMJ, discomfort, etc.? You're looking for that, or it was just something fun that you're like, wait a second, that would be so cool.
This is such an interesting story. So the building that I'm in right now, when I opened, I leased the smallest space, smallest suite in my building. Okay. So right next door to me was the owner of the building. At the time, there were 3 suites. And it was like a classic med spa, right? So
Okay.
we go on our lunch breaks just to the back door. My mom and I, my mom is my office manager. We would go get our Botox on our lunch break, and then we head back over. Well, they went out of business, like abruptly went out of, like moved, went out of business. So there was a ton of people who had these large packages with this med
Got
spa.
it.
I kept hearing like all this chatter about, what were they going to do? They had prepaid for all these packages. And I thought, oh man, we're going to have this like huge crowd running in that's going to be angry, and we're going to have to field questions just because we're next door. This is terrible. They were coming in. They weren't upset that they had lost money on their package. They were upset, like, where were they going to get their injectables? It was hilarious. So, and my mom was also concerned about where was she going to get her injectables. So normally I would have to do this whole like presentation with her where um because I have to be managed very closely. I'm an idea person.
Excited.
I don't sit down with a paper pencil, figure everything out. I just kind of roll with ideas. So normally I have to do like the presentation with her about like, this is the course, this is how much it costs, this would be our return on investment. Like we have to really, hash things over if it's over a certain amount. And I went in to talk to her about it totally unprepared. And she was like, when can you go? And I was like,
She
well,
did.
I was like, I can fly like immediately, to California. It's going to be very expensive. This was like around November, or I can wait until like March. It's not going to be as an expensive trip for us because I can do it a little more local. And she was like, get your plane ticket.
That's
So,
incredible. So the opportunity really arose, and you're like, wait, this really does fall hand in hand.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So
I
with
mean,
you, yeah, with you being a new business at the time, did you find that since now you also had that additional option, that it was also getting your dental clinic rolling a lot quicker too? Like if you're going to one spot, not why not make it a one-stop shop? Why not get your cleanings or your dental restorations, etc., done if you're already going for other things?
absolutely. Also, I think it's a good cover. You're like, oh, I have a dentist appointment. So we kind of have this running joke. I'm always like, you can make the checkout like on the memo. You can put filling. They don't have to know what kind of filling you got.
That's hilarious. That's so good though. So then when it obviously started to grow legs and grow, I mean, now from what I can tell on your website is you're waitlisted.
Yes, yeah, we're waitlisted. I am now I'm faculty with Allergan, which is huge for like the dental community because for the longest time, they were like, you're one of our top accounts, but like we don't have any dentist on teaching faculty. We just won't do that. And now I am. So yeah.
That's incredible. Before we even started talking, we were talking about how you are still actively in the competing realm of the horse world. You said you were just at the world championships, correct?
Yeah, I'm here now.
Which is insane. So you are busy, busy, busy. And then on top of life, your kiddo, your husband, the pups, which we saw in the background earlier. So how did you really start to manage all of this? Like, is there another dentist at the office when you're gone?
No. So this is perfect timing because, of course, you want to talk about whitening. And I already expressed to you at the beginning, I was like, please don't ask me technical questions about whitening because I don't handle that. I can talk about a lot of dentistry and a lot of facial injectables, but I've went through a few associates, and some have been good fits, but they have done so well, and I hope that they think that they learned so much from my practice that they were able to go out and kind of start their own gig, which is great. I'm always very supportive. Some haven't been such a great fit. They've wanted to do more like public health industry or whatever. My practice is much different.
For sure.
So right now I'm in between. I have a hygienist that is in, she just started dental school. So fingers
Okay.
crossed, associate in 4 years. That's what I'm holding out for. But I just managed it. Like last week we did, so I've incorporated a lot of retail into my space as
Smart.
well, in the whole retail area, because we do skincare, we do a lot of dental products. So we typically have, like right now I'm out and it's always like the 14 days or so before Labor Day. So Labor Day is a great, retail time. So we got retail, but like last week I had one of my reps, my allergen rep, came in and helped do kind of a filler like question day. So
Cool.
we were running a promo for some injectables. Like we had an injectable package, so they did like prelim consults, and yeah, I was looking, of course I was busy checking in with our point of sale system the whole time that day, and everybody that came in did something. So that was a huge day for us. And then this week we're focusing on, like in my practice, it's more profitable sometimes if my hygienists are seeing hygiene patients, if my assistants are helping me. So if patients are interested in whitening, like our price point, if I'm going to work it into the schedule when I'm there, is maybe high enough that they don't really want to do it, but I have to do that to offset my
Oh,
chair
for
time.
sure. Mm-hmm.
Right now, while I'm out, it's kind of the perfect time. We do our schedule, like everybody else, at least 6 months in advance, sometimes a year in
Yeah.
advance. So I stay on with the workshop schedule, and some of the workshops are the same for me every year, and the girls know when. So we mark off those days, and we pre-fill those for like whitening discount days. So the girls are just running whitenings through today and tomorrow while I'm gone. And that gives my patients a great opportunity where if they're asking, for the last month leading up to this, if they're asking me about whitening, me and my entire team are always like, well, whitenings here are normally X amount, but if you want to go ahead and pre-book for these dates, you're going to save. We do it for $100 off, and
Amazing.
then we a $50 voucher that they use within the next year for like another whitening. So yeah.
That is so smart, and it is so true. I feel like maybe sometimes consumers don't understand why whitening is so expensive in office, but first off, if they could only see how much usually chairside kits are for you to bring in, and then to
Oh,
consider your wage, right? Your staff wage. And then you do have to offset that compared to, say, a crown appointment or veneers, etc. You have to make it worth your time. So whitening can be really tricky to maneuver in a dental practice, but it sounds like you have done an incredible job at really bringing it in as passive income. And why not offer a discount when you do have that chair availability? That is so smart.
I think it's a great way for really busy dentists to incorporate in very easily because patients do want it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a lot of my patients are very, aesthetic driven. That's why I have them in the first place. So it's just very easy, and that gives, previous to this, and like this, the girls still got some paid days off. I always, if I'm away, it's unfair for my team, right, that they can't work because there's not an associate, there's not somebody there. So previously, there was a lot of paid days that just weren't bringing in an income, which was fine when I had one or two people on my team, but when you have a huge team, that gets harder.
Oh, for
um
sure.
so then I noticed that I was limiting my personal days, which then isn't fair for me because I'm burnt out, so I'm not as good for my patients.
It's a
So
scale.
it's a great balance. When we've really maneuvered it to where patients look forward to it, they know it's coming up, and it just works for us. So
Yeah, and first off, I want to come and be a dental assistant in Kentucky and work for you because that's incredible. So many dentists that I've worked for here, it's, you're off when they're off, and that's it, that's all.
It's unfair. It's really unfair.
But that is, I mean, it's so smart. And when you started to really think about how to incorporate whitening, did you find it's almost like the chicken and the egg story? What do you find kind of comes first? Is it your clients or patients asking for the aesthetics and then being like, oh, I should also have a bright smile? Or do you find it's usually they're starting with teeth whitening and then they're like, you know what, I also should do some other things?
For me, just because I think mm, probably what most people, my Instagram following is big. So a lot of times for new patients, I'm getting them maybe through Instagram.
Mhm.
And a big part of my Instagram, but a big part of my practice is injectables. So a lot of times I would say it probably starts with injectables and then it goes there. And it hasn't always been that way, but that's where we are now. But they definitely feed hand in hand. You don't want um and sometimes I have to have the hard talk of somebody comes in for injectables and I'm like, there's nothing that I can do that's gonna help you as much as if we started with support from your smile, facial support. Let's talk about your jaw position that's feeding into a lot of things on your face that you're not loving. Or I'll notice that they kind of purposely don't smile, and I'm like, is that like a thin lip thing? Is that a tooth thing? Let's explore that, because the whole point of what I do at my practice is, I mean, of course, I want them to all be healthy and have beautiful, healthy smiles, but confidence is what I do basically. So sometimes I have to have that hard talk of maybe teeth or something that they've been avoiding for years and years, and they're not as comfortable talking about teeth because that's something that they've hidden. Whereas their face, that's kind of out there. So yeah, I just think that my my practice model just works really well because it is so hand in hand.
Oh, so well. And isn't that interesting that it really is so connected? As you mentioned, confidence comes from a variety of different things, but the smile can really link to many other facial features. So I do find it's interesting that it has taken this long to become more and more connected into dentistry. You really would have thought that this would have been more together way even before 2012. So it's really interesting. So what's it like in Kentucky? Like I was chatting with a dentist in Texas a couple weeks ago, and in Texas, to inject at least Botox, you honestly don't need any medical license whatsoever. What's it like in Kentucky? Do you have to hold, say, either like a certain nurse license or a dental hygiene license? What's the rules in Kentucky?
Dental hygienists are not allowed in
Okay.
Kentucky, which I find that and I try to keep a close eye because I also, I train injectors. So try to keep a close eye on what states that's changing for. So like Kansas is open now to dental hygienists. I think maybe Massachusetts is. So it's becoming more and more. But in Kentucky, it's nurse practitioners. Nurse practitioners can practice aesthetic medicine and injectables with no sort of supervisor.
Okay.
Um, let's see, PAs, doctors, of course, nurses. So LPNs can inject Botox, but not filler, and obviously have to have supervision from a doctor. RNs can inject either, but supervision from a doctor. They can't treatment plan. And then dentist. I was actually, it's a good time to ask me that question because I was just on a board, and I'm so glad that Kentucky did this because, as you'll find with facial injectables, there's so many states, so many people overlapping with who's doing it, when, and
Okay.
under.
Mhm.
that there's not always like clear cut guidelines. So then you feel like it's the Wild West sometimes. And like patients don't even know. Sometimes patients come in and I'm like, okay, so you had a bad experience. Tell me about that. Like, tell me about your injector. And I've had people come in before and they've been like, well, it was a doctor because only doctors can inject. And I'm like, okay, well, no, that's not true. And like, they just don't even know the
They just
credentials.
assume, right?
Assume. So Kentucky was great because they did an aesthetic like council. And so basically what happened was it was headed through the nursing board because they were trying to decide who can do what under what supervision. But they were really awesome in getting feedback from literally everybody. So there were 19 of us on a Zoom call once a month for like 4 months where, you know, optometry was represented, dermatology, plastic surgery. I
So
was there
cool.
for the community. And so we really just spoke and we were like, well, this doesn't make sense to us. Like, why can't an LPN do this? Or an RN can do this. Why can't they do this? And so we really hashed everything out and we've got some great guidelines now. And so the crazy thing about aesthetics is, you know, I was so scared that it was taking us so long because this was the first meeting. It's taking us so long to kind of hash that out that I was like, there's going to be new things on the market, you know, by the time we figure all this
Gonna
out. So we're
tell.
once a year, there's like 5 key members from that group that's going to kind of just refresh that once a year. So maybe, you know, hygienists eventually will be added to that list as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so great to know because a lot of our listeners are the dental community and or even the nursing community. And depending on where they are, this would be really informative for them, say, especially for an independent hygiene provider. I don't know if it's as common in your state, but here in Canada, independent hygiene practices are becoming very, very popular. And if they were able to, say, add those services on top of what they're already doing at their independent practices, I mean, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that could be definitely huge for them.
Yeah, for sure. So I know we were chatting about whitening and you're like, I don't do it anymore, which is so common, so common. But I see that you're working with one brand and it seemed like the team loves it, chairside and retail product. Did it take you a long time to find that brand? Have you always been with that brand? Or was it kind of a team member that's like, hey, we should try out this because it's definitely a newer technology company for sure.
So they kind of approached us, Instagram, right? So they found us on Instagram and they wanted us to do, you know, a quick demo. And in the past, I have had trouble with whitening because I get super sensitive, which is funny because me and my everyday, like I will bite into an ice cream cone in front of people and they just like cringe. Like I don't have
You're
sensitive.
fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. So I would have a lot of difficulty with whitenings. So I knew that I wouldn't be administrating the whitening. I knew that I was typically one of the worst patients for the girls. So I was like, okay, I will, you know, I'll be tribute here. Let's try
Let's
it
try
out.
it.
And I slept. I slept through it. So when I woke up, the girls were like, yeah, your shade looks really good, but also this is the first time you've ever been comfortable through an entire whitening. So, you know, and I typically am really good with pain. Like I do a lot of injectables, I do a lot of skin devices, but for some reason that was the one thing that got me in practice. So once we did the demo, we decided that um even if it was competitive, like on the spectrum of the shades of whitening that we were getting, we had so many people that would come in and have a whitening or think about a whitening, and they were like, I can't do it because I get so sensitive. I followed all your directions before, I followed all your directions after, and it's just not something that I'm interested in doing again because I just I don't want to deal with that. And so we don't have that anymore. So we just stuck with them.
That's incredible. And so it is the Glow brand. That's definitely not very I don't even think it's really in Canada at all right now, but it seems to be very popular in the States. And it seems like they are a straight hydrogen based product, but a lot shorter contact time, which has got to be huge for dehydration and probably part of the reason you're not getting that sensitivity. So that's got to be something that is very comfortable for you to not have to worry for the sensitivity for yourself, but then also for the client. Now, do you find that when it comes to whitening, are your patients really doing restocks on your retail items? Like, say, if they've had a chairside whitening appointment, do you find they repurchase for retail items, or do you find they want to come back in the chair with that $50 gift card that you've offered?
Both. So we typically, on the day of their whitening, we offer a discount that's like just a percentage off that's available for whitening, for at home whitening products just that day.
Mm,
So like leave the
smart.
appointment, they lose that discount. So we do pretty well with that. My patients, a lot of my patients that like in office whitenings, they're usually not good about using at
Oh,
home things while they're doing the in office. So I have some that, I mean, literally just leave and they're like, I know I'm not going to do it. That's why I came in. Just tell me again how soon I can do this. And I'm like, okay. So that's how we deal with that. And you brought up the time thing. The timing with this system is great for us because it used to be a little bit longer and more
mhm.
sessions, and it still was short, but now they've really honed it in to where the girls did my whitening while some patients were numbing for me before I came down because it was just like so quick. But I find that my patients love that because a lot of them are like me. Like I use the nail salon for an example. Like going and getting my nails done is the worst thing to me because I can't play on my phone, like all the things I normally do on my
For
downtime.
sure, right?
My phone, if somebody texts me, I can't get it. I don't really, it's supposed to be a relaxation time. So you don't really want to like talk while you're having it done. It just, I explained to my mom not too long ago, was like, the guy that I request every time, I'm not positive that he's the best nail tech in there, but he's the quickest. And it's such a me to go and sit and like give up that time, even though it's like self care. I just feel like I could be doing a million different things. And I think a lot of my patients are the same. All of our patients are the same now, right? We're
Mhm.
supposed always doing something. We're always working or we're looking on our phone or it's always something. So you can think of 1 million other things that you want to do other than laying back with your mouth propped a little bit open.
Yep, exactly. And that chair time can say if someone only had a short lunch break or their kids were at a soccer practice and they only had a time frame, you want to make it worth their time and also get the results that is worth their time. So that's a big thing to look for when it comes to whitening supplies, 1,000%. So we've mentioned your social media, which is incredible. You've built this brand, and I can imagine it's probably been quite the journey since 2012. But all of the different professionals that are listening to this episode, what is a great piece of advice as we wrap up about if you could go back in time? What would you tell yourself to either be patient with, or I know you kind of really push through your social and your website that it's community over competition, don't compare yourself. So are these all things that you've just learned over the years, or did you start right off the hop thinking these things?
No, social media for me started out enjoyable. I feel like I was on the front wave of Instagram. That's why I won't give it up. Like I'm not
You're
switching
not
over
going
to
to TikTok.
no, no. I'm on Instagram for the long haul. But Instagram for me at first was fun. And then it became overwhelming because I would allow myself to look around at everybody else. So then I
Mhm.
would get in a hurry because I would be like, well, these people are already doing these procedures. And maybe I wasn't ready to do those procedures yet. But you feel that pressure from Instagram. And really, it's
Yes.
not Instagram, it's pressure you're putting on yourself because you're competing with somebody's Instagram. Um, so I got to where I really had to just like, or the other thing that would kill me is, I would come up with like this really great promotion or this really great campaign for something. And literally within hours, I would look on a competitor's Instagram page and they would have the same thing, like right down to the wire. And it would just, I would be so upset because I tried to be so original on that. And it was just like a knife to the heart. Like you did all that work and wouldn't it just be easier if you just hopped on and just stole somebody else's idea on it?
Literally.
And yes, so I was just getting really frustrated. And then I had to just figure out that now it's funny if you go into the accounts that I follow and stuff, there's very few professional accounts that like I follow. I try to look at cute puppies. I like
Aw.
I don't know why, because this is really setting a bad tone for me, but somehow my Instagram figured out that I think it's very funny when people are videoed like having a crash on their horse. So I like to watch those and laugh a little bit.
That's your
So
downtime, just you scrolling.
I kind of look at things that are gonna refuel me instead of drain me. And I
Mm,
think beginning I wouldn't do that. And you frame that as, well, I hate to, if I'm going to be on Instagram, I don't want to waste my time. I want to make it work related stuff. And that's
mhm.
fine. But my allotted Instagram for work now needs to be in cultivating or creating content for my account rather than looking at everybody else's, because I'm just either going to push myself too fast because I'm competing, or I'm going to be upset because people are copying or competing with me. And so I think you just have to let go and let live.
That's great advice. And as all these different social media platforms are coming out, it's going to be similar in all of them. You have to set yourself boundaries and really stay true to your why and why you're doing what you're doing and building your audience, which exactly what you've been doing, and really saving that energy, because at the end of the day, you only have so much of it and you don't want to be spending it in areas that really aren't worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true.
So this has been so amazing. Where can we follow along? I'm sure lots of followers are going to want to jump in and follow the tooth booth, follow what's going on in your life and journey. But then also, fingers crossed, as different changes happen, there'll be different opportunities for different professionals to potentially do training with you as different things change too. So where's the best place to follow? It sounds like Instagram, but is there anything else that we should be looking for or following along to keep updated?
No, I keep everything under my same banner. So even my trainings and everything, I just try to streamline it and keep it simple. It's all under the tooth booth on Instagram. So I'm just at the tooth booth. I have a link in bio there where you can go to my link tree that's got, if you want to see kind of how we set up our online retail stuff, how we
Awesome.
run like our whitening days, like you can hop on there, patients prepay for those spots. And so
Mm.
you see how we kind of list those. I have my trainings there. So yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been so helpful. I know our audience is going to love this chat, and we wish you nothing but the best for your continuing competition. So, how many more, like, how does it work? How many more runs do you have? Or,
One more time. So I qualified. I have a young course that I showed for the very first time. I won't be showing him back. So the way it works down here is when you qualify, so your qualifying class for like your championship competition, qualifying class is your world championship. And then there's a few different world championships that will feed into the world grand championship in your division. So I showed my 2-year-old. The third time I've been on him, only like the third time he had been in the ring altogether, we got a reserve world championship. So I'm pleased as punch with that. We're not going to test that or show back or anything. He's just a baby. But then I've got my little solid guy that last year he was world champion and world grand champion in his division. So we qualified yesterday. We got the world championship in his new division. He's aged up, and so our World Grand is on Saturday. So I'm just trying to rest and relax, and you know, I show Western, so there's like a lot of bling associated with it. So my husband has joked that I'll just be shining on all my rhinestones and my silver.
That sounds like, I mean, that sounds like a full-time job. So when you're not at the office, you're doing your other full-time job.
Basically, I'm lucky in that I married a horse trainer, and once I had my son, he couldn't travel around as much anymore, so he stopped so that he could be with our son. And then once my son went to school, we started getting, he doesn't train outside horses now. We he's basically my horse trainer now. And then the ones that we think we might fight over, I have an outside horse trainer for that.
A great teamwork duo, right? You know when to outsource. Oh, well, this has been amazing. And those of you who are listening, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Whitening Wednesday. We'll catch you again next week. And don't forget to go check out Dr. Hughes's tooth at the tooth booth on Instagram.
Thank you so much.